Security has been one of the key issues at this year's G20 in Argentina. After the violent protests in Hamburg last year, Buenos Aires has been keen to avoid a repeat of that. And after long negotiations between the government and the social organisations, protesters were allowed to march through the centre of Buenos Aires on Friday afternoon. Buenos Aires has been on lockdown since world leaders began arriving for the G20 summit. Over 22,000 security officers have been deployed, and the country has invested heavily in equipment to be prepared for the possibility of violent protests. At this year's G20, protesters were a mix of anti-capitalists and anti-G20 activists from dozens of organisations, but also people that came out to protest about the domestic economic situation in the country.
Bueno, Argentina está en recesión.
Argentina is in recession. There is inflation of 50%, and wages are down because wage negotiations ended in a 15% rise. The G20 comes to ratify this type of policy, but it is not only the G20, but the IMF is here also. And no country that has followed IMF indications have there been improved salaries or improvement in the economy.
This year, Argentina received a $57 billion loan from the IMF to bolster the economy, and that is just one of the issues protesters here marched about. There were arrests and isolated incidents, but no public transport, and some opposition parties not taking part in this protest meant that this march was much smaller than past demonstrations this year when Argentina was without the presence of world leaders. Joel Richards, CGTN, Buenos Aires.